Hi everybody, I just want to let you know that I am happy to be talking to you even if it is just one way. I would much rather be there with you than sitting at home as I am. That being said, that's not my choice to make, so we're just going to have to make do. That being said, I do want to let you know what you can expect for the duration of your school year. This week we're going to hit lessons 86 through 90, and this will be how we do it. The video will be played for you on the smartboard for everyone to see. If you need it to be paused so you can write something down, just raise your hand. I'm sure that the substitute will be happy to oblige. And then you'll have a homework assignment with each lesson. It will be due and graded the next day. Okay, you need to make sure you have your stuff done on time. Same rules apply as always with working lunch. And after this week, next week, you're going to have 2 days to review before your final test of the school year. And that test will be over these 5 lessons and potentially anything else that we have covered. So anything that we've talked about will be fair game. I'm going to give you 2 days to review, so that mostly because I'm not going to be there to help you on the day of the review, so that way after the first day you can grade that one, see what you did or didn't get correct, and really focus on those topics. After that, we will be done with your textbooks, and I will have other assignments for you throughout the end of the school year. If you have any questions, you are always free to email me. My email is bdotson@milan.k12.mo.us, and you all should have school email accounts. Those are what you should email me from. These will also be uploaded to YouTube, and they will all be on the server as they always are. So if you watch it in class and you want to see it again, or maybe you missed class and you didn't get to see it, that's how you're going to see it. You need to either get a laptop 8th hour and look at it on the server, or you can do it at home, watch it on YouTube like we've done in the past. So let's get started. What we're talking about today is lesson 86, midpoint and length of a segment. Okay, it says that we use Pythagorean theorem to find distances that are difficult to measure directly. So for example 1, we have avenues and we have streets. Let me get out my pen here. Okay, and it says this diagram of city streets, using this diagram of city streets, what is the direct distance in city blocks from the corner of C Street and 5th Avenue? So if we're talking about C Street and 5th Avenue, the corner, so we're talking about this point right here, to the corner of G Street and 1st Avenue. So G Street is here, 1st Avenue is here. And give the answer in simplest radical form. Use a calculator to approximate the answer to the nearest whole city block. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to draw a line between these 2 points. So we go from here, turn it straight, to here. And we can use the Pythagorean theorem to find this distance by creating a right triangle. Our right triangle is right here. Okay, this is the right angle. If my lines were straight, it would look better. So we can find 2 distances of this triangle, 2 lengths, and that is from C to G is 4 blocks, and from 1st Street to 5th Street is also 4 blocks. I hope that you all remember that the Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Excuse me. A squared, we're talking about 4 squaring it, plus b, which is 4 and squaring it, equals c squared, which is this distance. We don't know that. Okay, so 4 squared we know is 16, plus 16 equals c squared. So what I end up with here is 32 equals c squared, but I don't want to know c squared, I want to know c. We all know that to cancel a square we must do what? Square it, square root it, square root it, and what I do to one side I must do to the other. So square and square root will cancel. I'm left with c equals, and for this radical 32 I'm going to have to, it said in the directions, to give the answer in simplest radical form. Okay, Supposed to be underlined. Okay, so we're going to factor tree this. So this splits into, we'll say 4 and 8, 2 and 2, those are prime, 4 and 2, and 2 and 2. So the prime factorization is radical. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 2's. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. I can pull out my doubles. So I have 2 times 2, which is 4. Radical 2 is what's left on the inside. And this is city blocks. Then it wanted us to use our calculator, which I have my cell phone here because I don't have my calculator handy. Use our calculator to approximate to the nearest city block. So if you punch that into your calculator, I get 5.656, which is approximately 5.7, which we will round up to 6 city blocks. Okay, those are the two answers that you should have for this problem. Alright, distance formula we've talked about in the past, I believe. The distance D between 2 points, this x1, y1, this is point 1, and this is point 2, is D equals the square root of x sub 2 minus x sub 1 squared plus y sub 2 minus y sub 1 squared. Okay? And what this is doing is this is a formula for you, which is basically simplifying the Pythagorean theorem. Okay? Because we have point 1, point 2, they are wanting to find this distance, they created a right triangle. Man, my writing is bad. Okay? And so then what's happening here is you are simplifying the Pythagorean theorem. Okay, so you can still use the Pythagorean theorem to find this distance if that's what's easiest for you, but essentially you're doing the same thing. It's just giving you the formula, I guess. So it says find the distance between 2, negative 2 and 4, negative 3. This is our x1, y1, x2, y2. Because we're looking for distance, we're talking about D is equal to the square root of, and I have x sub 2 minus x sub 1 squared plus y sub 2 minus y sub 1 squared. Okay? So all I have to do is plug in my stuff. So distance is equal to the square root of x sub 2 is 4. Okay? Minus x sub 1, which is 2. Square it. Plus y sub 2 is negative 3 minus y sub 1, which is negative 2. Notice my double negative. Okay, very important that you bring everything down straight from the formula, because those two negatives we know will change to a positive. So inside parentheses here I get 2 needs to be squared plus negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1 needs to be squared, and then the square root of that. Notice I kept my parentheses here. You can keep it in both places. It doesn't matter on this one, but it does on this one. If you punch into your calculator the quantity of negative 1 squared and negative 1 squared, you will get two different answers, okay? Because it's in parentheses in the first place, that means that square goes to whatever the answer is, okay? And you have to have the parentheses to get the right answer. So, D equals radical 2 squared, which is 4, plus negative 1 squared is 1. So I get D is equal to radical 5. And it didn't say to change anything, so we'll just leave it at that. Determine whether the quadrilateral ABCD is a rhombus. Okay? For this to be a rhombus, alright, what you have to know is that the diagonals of a rhombus are perpendicular, which means that their slopes are opposite reciprocals. So we need to find the slope of this and this to see if they are in fact perpendicular. That's what we're trying to figure out. So point D is 1, -2. C is 3, -2. B is 1, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, -4. A is -1, -4. Okay, so I hope you remember the slope formula. That should surely be pounded into your head by now, but if not, m equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So we're going to find the slope, first of all, of this AC. So the slope of AC is equal to, and I'm going to label them, I have x1, y1, x2, and y2. My y sub 2 is -2 minus y sub 1, which is -4, over x sub 2, which is 3, minus x sub 1, which is -1. So double negatives, we know, give us positives. -2 plus 4, this gives me 2 over 4, which is 1/2. So in order for this to be a rhombus, it has to be perpendicular here in the middle. And whenever I do that, perpendicular, our slope must be opposite reciprocal. So the slope of this has to be opposite in sign, which means it has to be negative. And then when I flip it, it would have to be 2 over 1 or -2. Now, the problem with this is you should be able to tell me what the slope of DB is without doing any of this work, because it is a vertical line. What kind of slope do vertical lines have? Think about that for a second. You have one of two options, because we have vertical lines that always have this slope, and horizontal lines that always have another slope, okay? Think about that. So, if you said 0, you are wrong, because a slope of 0 means that it is a horizontal line. Remember, a vertical line has an undefined slope. So this would be no, it is not a rhombus. The midpoint formula, okay? If you have 2 points and you want to know the midpoint of those 2 points, all you have to do is add your x values and divide by 2. You're averaging, okay? You average the x values, you average the y values. And you write it, this is being written, which the parentheses don't look great here, this is being written as an ordered pair, okay? So, find the midpoint of the line segments with the given endpoints. If I want to do this, I have x1, y1, x2, y2. So the midpoint would be my x values, which is 7 plus 5, being averaged. And then my y is going to be my y's being averaged. Which means I have 12 and 6. So 12 divided by 2 is 6, 3. That would be my midpoint of these 2 points. Okay, what I want you to do is I want you all to read this problem, and I want you to try and do it on your own. So I'm going to have the substitute pause the video. Everyone needs to work the problem, and when you're done, what I want you to do is I want 2 people to go to the board and try to show your work and explain what you've done. Whenever they're done doing that, please play the video so that they can see the work. So please pause now. Example 5 says a quarterback is on the 30-yard line at 30-20. He throws a pass to his receiver who is on the 50-yard line at 50-10. Find the length of the pass as a radical and simplest form, then use a calculator to estimate the length to the nearest yard. Okay? It wants us to find the length of the pass. That means I'm finding the distance between the quarterback and his receiver. So I have x1, y1, and x2, y2. And the formula that we're going to use for this is distance, which remember, d equals radical. And I have x sub 2 minus x sub 1 squared plus y sub 2 minus y sub 1 squared. Alright, so square root of x sub 2 was 50 minus x sub 1, which is 30, needs to be squared, so cancels because I use those, plus y sub 2 was 20 minus y sub 1, which was 10, square that. Okay, so now we can do the math on the inside. 50 minus 30 is 20, it's being squared, plus 20 minus 10 is 10, it's being squared, and I'm going to take the square root of all of that. So 20 squared, that gives me 400, plus 10 squared, that gives me 100. So I have radical 500, and it says in simplest form. So this is not in simplest form right now. This is the distance. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to factor tree it. So I have radical 500, which is going to split into, we'll say 5 and 100. And 5 is a prime. 100 splits into 10 and 10, which is 2 and 5, and 2 and 5. So that gives me radical 2 times 2 times 5 times 5 times 5. Take out my doubles. So I pull out a 2 and a 5, radical 5, which gives me 10 radical 5 yards. Well, if I gave you the football stats from Friday nights in radicals, you would say, I have no idea what that means, right? So what you need to do, you need to punch it into your calculator and also find, let me clear this out, also find the answer to the nearest yard, which according to mine is 22.4 yards, roughly, which we will round to 22 yards. Okay, so that's your final answer. I hope whoever went to the board had those answers for you and that you've taken good notes. What you need to do for homework is you need to do the practice set from lesson 86 and you need to do problems 1 through 10. Those will be due and graded tomorrow. Okay, so make sure you have those done. That's all I have for you. I hope that you have a good day. Work for the rest of the hour on your own quietly, please. And I'll talk to you again tomorrow.